The rope snaps in an instant. A rock the size of a fist hits the line, and the man vanishes beyond the snow ridge. No scream, only silence. Minus 50 degrees. Winds of 180 kilometers an hour. Victory Peak, 7,439 meters high. The northernmost 7,000 are on Earth. August 1961. 2 will die. The first, when the rope breaks during a technical descent. The second, when his crampons slip on the ice and the axe is torn from frozen hands. But the worst part is when a brother gasps for air high above, and the team splits apart. When 4 climbers are trapped in a whiteout, a single step from the edge. When pride turns into a fall. It's a documentary reconstruction of the events that took place on the slopes of Victory Peak between 1955 and 1961. Every name, every date, every decision, verified through archives, expedition reports, and eyewitness accounts. Victory Peak rises on the border of Kyrgyzstan and China, in the heart of the Tian Shan. Its northern ridge is a classic route of Soviet alpinism, but here, classic doesn't mean well-traveled. It means tested in blood. Altitude, cold, avalanches, technical sections at the edge of possibility. In August of 1961, a Georgian team sets out for the summit. Among them, Mikhail Khergiani, one of the strongest climbers in the Soviet Union, and his younger brother, still trying to prove he belongs on the rope beside him. And here's the strange thing. After every tragedy on this mountain, and there will be more than one, people don't turn away. They come back, as if trying to solve some cruel riddle, as if the mountain itself is asking a question that can only be answered by reaching the top. Why? What drives someone to return to the place where others never came back? We'll follow the path, step by step, choice by choice. From hope to that single moment when the rope snaps and a man disappears behind a wall of snow. To understand the price of victory, you have to see where luck ends and choice begins. But first, to the memory of those who came before. August 1955. 2 teams are climbing Victory Peak at the same time, approaching it from opposite sides. One from Almaty, the other from Moscow. The Almaty group takes the northern ridge. Their leader is an experienced mountaineer, but experience only matters here for as long as the mountain allows it. The first few days go as planned. The team moves steadily upward, setting up intermediate camps, breaking trail through endless snowfields. But at 6,500 meters, the weather begins to shift. At first, it's just clouds. Then comes the wind. Then the temperature drops so sharply that metal carabiners burn through gloves. That's when they make their decision, to keep going. They're already too high to turn back with nothing, too close to the goal. It's the classic trap of altitude, when you've given so much that retreat feels like betrayal. August 16th. The group reaches above 7,000 meters. The wind rises to hurricane force. Visibility drops to just a few meters. Snow falls so thick that in half an hour it buries their tracks. And then comes the worst part. The avalanche danger. Fresh snow piling over old crust. The whole slope holding together on faith alone. August 17th. Contact with base camp is lost. Later, rescuers will say the team tried to descend, but it was already too late. Avalanches, frostbite, exhaustion. When the body simply refuses to move, one by one, they stop and don't get up again. From the entire Almaty team, only one man survives, Ural Usanov. He descends alone, almost blind, with frozen hands. The first thing he says to the rescuers, "We underestimated the mountain." Later, the investigation lists 3 critical mistakes. First, poor acclimatization. Second, ignoring the weather forecast. Third, no backup plan for retreat. But the main lesson is simpler. On a 7,000er, there's no room for improvisation. Every decision is either calculated or it's your last. The mountain has one name, victory, but every failure has its details. After 1955, it seemed they would give up. But the story took a different turn. Summer 1956. Soviet alpinism returns to Victory Peak, but this time under the leadership of a man whose name has already become legend, Vitaly Abalakov. A master of sport, pioneer of dozens of routes. A man who sees mountains not as enemies, but as partners in a difficult dance. He leads a team of 12 and accomplishes what, just a year earlier, seemed impossible. Abalakov doesn't rush. That's the core of his method. The team spends 2 full weeks acclimatizing, climbing to intermediate heights, descending, then climbing again. The body adjusts to the lack of oxygen gradually, like a swimmer easing into cold water. Not a jump, but a slow immersion. Each day the body adapts, the heart beats faster, the blood produces more red cells, the lungs learn to work more efficiently. It's tedious, it's slow, but it works. The second rule, strict rope discipline. Everyone knows their role, who breaks trail, who belays, who carries the load. No improvisation, no solo heroics. Abalakov builds a system where a weak link simply cannot appear, because every role is doubled, every move planned. At 7,000 meters, individualism becomes suicide. The third rule, weather. Abalakov waits for a window. He doesn't charge into a storm, doesn't rely on luck. The team stays in camp, watches the sky, and waits. 1 day, 2, 3, and only when conditions are right, they move. August 29th, 1956. Abalakov's group reaches the summit of Victory Peak. All 12 climbers alive, all healthy. They stand on the dome, take photos, leave a note in a summit cairn. The descent goes smoothly, exactly as planned. This isn't just success, it's proof. The mountain yields not to strength, but to method. 2 years later, 1958, another expedition follows the same route. Again, success. Again, no losses. The technique has become almost automatic. Every stage timed to the hour. Fixed ropes appear on key sections, backup camps, clear communication protocols with base. Mountaineering turns from adventure into science. Standards emerge, manuals, training guides, and then a shift in psychology. If the summit has been reached twice, that must mean the route isn't deadly. It's a matter of preparation, not luck. Victory Peak stops being a forbidden zone and becomes a goal. Prestigious, difficult, but attainable. Teams across the Soviet Union start planning their own ascents. In alpine clubs, they discuss tactics. Young climbers look at photos of the summit and think, why not me? If it's possible, it must be done. That's what many believed. But 1959 would remind them, the mountain signs no agreements. August 1959. The Uzbek expedition, led by Anatoly Karpov, sets out to climb Victory Peak. 25 people, not a team, but a small army. And Karpov has a plan that looks brilliant on paper. Skip the long acclimatization. Why waste 2 weeks preparing when you can strike fast? The logic seems sound. The faster you climb, the less time you spend in the danger zone. Fewer chances to get caught in bad weather, less food and fuel consumed. In theory, efficient. In practice, it's Russian roulette with a mountain. The team ascends the northern ridge, gaining altitude quickly, too quickly. At 5,500 meters, several climbers begin to complain of headaches and nausea, classic signs of altitude sickness. But there's a schedule to keep, and the column keeps moving. At 6,000 meters, things get worse. People start gasping for air even on flat ground. Some lose coordination, stumbling on easy terrain. The body screams, "Stop! Give me time." But stopping means the plan fails. August 24th. The assault group reaches 6,700 meters and finds members of the support team already there. They're sitting in the snow, unable to move. Frostbite, total apathy. One can't even explain how long they've been there. Altitude shuts down the brain in stages. First logic, then self-preservation. They decide to halt for a rest day. Tents go up. They try to warm the frozen climbers, offer hot drinks. But at this height, the body doesn't recover. It just falls apart more slowly. August 26th. Alexander Soldatov dies. His heart simply stops. There isn't enough oxygen left to keep it beating. August 27th. Vladimir Dobrynin and Yevgeny Ananyev follow, one after another. Their bodies remain in the tents. No one has the strength to bring them down. Rescuers start moving only after word of the disaster reaches base. A Kazakh team climbs to help, evacuating the survivors. It takes days, a slow, agonizing descent where every step could be the last. Later, the commission summarizes the main cause in a single phrase: underestimation of the physiological demands of high-altitude mountaineering. In simpler terms, you can't cheat biology. The mountains hear ambition, but they answer in numbers: temperature, oxygen saturation, and time. With those lessons, in 1961, the Georgians take the route. Summer 1961. The Georgian team sets up base camp on the Diki Glacier, the starting point for the route to Victory Peak. The expedition is led by Atargi Genishvili, known not only as a strong climber, but as a precise tactician. He's studied every report from previous expeditions. He knows where others failed, and he has a plan meant to avoid every mistake that came before. Joining the team is Kirill Kuzmin, a mountaineer from another region with serious experience in high-altitude routes. His inclusion signals that this climb isn't just a matter of Georgian pride, it's a union of skill, knowledge, and technique across regions. The plan looks solid. First, acclimatization. No rushing, no pushing ahead too soon. A gradual climb with returns to lower camps. The body must adapt before the summit team moves into the final stretch. Second, snow caves. The team digs emergency shelters at key altitudes along the route. Not a luxury, a safety net. If the weather turns suddenly, they'll have a place to hide. Third, the traverse. The team plans to go not straight up, but along a side ridge where avalanche danger is lower. The route is longer, but supposedly safer. At least, that's how it looks on the map. August 17th, the scheduled date for the summit group's departure, but nature intervenes. Snow begins to fall, not heavily, but steadily. One day, then another, the camp falls silent, waiting. Tents sink deeper under the drifts. Every morning, they have to dig their way out. The team sits and watches the sky. Supplies are limited, fuel, food, all calculated with precision. Every extra day of waiting eats into what they might desperately need higher up. It's the classic dilemma of high-altitude climbing. Wait for good weather, or go in uncertain conditions while you still can. Genishvili decides to wait a little longer. He remembers the lesson of 1959. Haste costs more than delay. But tension builds in camp. Everyone knows the weather window at the end of August is narrow. Miss it, and they'll have to come back next year. And a year feels like forever when you're already here, standing on the threshold. Make it before the window closes, or stay in it forever. Next comes the summit lineup, and the roles each climber will play. The summit team, 6 climbers, no more, no less. It's the perfect number for a high-altitude route, enough to watch each other's backs, but not so many that the pace slows to a crawl. Among them, Mikhail Kergiani, the star of Georgian alpinism, a man of flawless technique and cold precision, and his younger brother, here to prove he's earned his place, not through family ties, but through skill. The plan includes 3 directions of attack. The main group will climb via the northern ridge, the classic route once mastered by Abalakov. The second rope team will move along the flank, ready to join if the main route becomes impassable. The third stays in reserve, prepared for evacuation or to deliver extra gear if needed. Then come the details that mean life or death. Ropes. Each team carries 100 meters of main line and 50 of backup. Not just cord, but the lifeline of the group. One snap could cost them all. Crampons, steel claws strapped to their boots, the only thing keeping them from sliding into nothing. Every pair checked and rechecked back at base. Shackletons, heavy, fur-lined, high-altitude boots. Bulky, uncomfortable, but they keep toes alive where ordinary shoes would turn flesh to ice in half an hour. Some climbers carry spare spikes, just in case a crampon breaks or vanishes in the snow. Rolls are crystal clear. Mikhail Kergiani leads the first rope. He breaks trail, makes decisions on the fly, finds the safest line through the slope. Behind him, the belayers, holding the rope, managing the tension, ready to arrest a fall in a heartbeat. The third climber clears deep snow, carving a path for those who follow. Mikhail's younger brother climbs in the second rope team, strong, steady, but with less high-altitude experience. Some in the group question his readiness, but Mikhail insists. His brother is prepared. He'll handle it. Trust or blood blindness. No one knows yet. The night before departure, the team gathers in the big tent. They check every piece of gear one last time, review the route, planned rest points, and radio signals to base. Everyone knows the risk. Everyone remembers the 3 who died here 2 years ago, and everyone is here by choice. Readiness confirmed, risk acknowledged. In a rope team, it's not the strongest who decides the outcome, it's the weakest and how precise they are. The start, in deep snow and the silence of altitude. August 18th. The snowfall finally stops, but the aftermath remains. Snow lies in a thick, heavy layer, waist deep in some places. Every step turns into a struggle. The foot sinks, you pull it out, take another step, and sink again. It's not walking anymore. It's swimming through a cold, white sea. But the weather window is open, and the team decides. It's time to move. The first days pass in hard, monotonous labor. Breaking trail at altitude feels like digging a trench while gasping for air that's never enough. The person in front leads for about 20 minutes, then steps aside, and another takes their place. Shifts happen every few dozen meters. The pace is slow but steady. The group sticks to the plan. Each camp is set up exactly where it was meant to be. Radio contact with base works. They send coordinates, team status, and next day's forecast every evening. So far, everything goes according to plan. August 23rd, 5 days on the move, and the summit team reaches an intermediate peak. Elevation, 6,918 meters. Not the main summit, but still a serious milestone. From here, the final route opens up, the ridge leading to the dome of Peak Pobeda. The distance looks short, but at altitude, distances lie. Someone suggests naming this point after Vajapshavala, the Georgian poet who sang about the mountains. A touch of romance, symbolism, national pride. Mikhail Kergiani nods. Why not? They build a small cairn and leave a note with the proposal. Later, when all is over, the name will stay unofficial, but among climbers, it will stick. They spend the night in a snow cave, carved right into the middle of the ridge. It's not comfort, it's survival. Walls of packed snow, inside temperature around 10 below zero. Warmer than outside, but still freezing. The stove melts snow for water. They prepare concentrated rations. Every sip of hot liquid feels like a small victory over dehydration. In the morning, the team looks ahead. The main dome of Peak Pobeda stands clear before them. Another 500 meters of vertical gain. But up here, 500 meters feel like kilometers down below. Strength is fading. Acclimatization helps, but doesn't erase exhaustion. Their reserves shrink with every passing day. Yet the course is set, and no one plans to turn back. The intermediate peak isn't a rest stop. It's a promise to be kept. The final push will demand a different kind of price. August 24th, 10 in the morning. The team steps out of the snow cave, hoping to finish the final stretch in a single push. The plan sounds realistic. About 500 meters of vertical left. Their technique is solid, and the weather still holds. If everything goes well, they'll be standing on the dome of Peak Pobeda by evening. But at 7,000 meters, nothing ever goes smoothly. For the first 2 hours, the pace is steady. The rope teams move along the ridge, belaying each other through tricky sections. The snow is firm, crampons bite well. Then it becomes noticeable. Mikhail Kergiani's younger brother is falling behind. Not dramatically, but consistently. He stops more often, breathes heavier, his movements losing precision. Mikhail glances back. His brother waves it off. Everything's fine. Keep going. But in mountaineering, fine isn't bravado. It's a precise statement. And right now, things aren't fine. By midday, the weather starts to turn. Not a storm, just a slow, steady decline. Clouds thicken, wind picks up, visibility drops. The temperature sinks a few more degrees. At altitude, every degree matters. It's the line between working fingers and frostbite. By 3 in the afternoon, it's clear. They won't make the summit before dark. The group stops around 7,000 meters. There's no cave here, so they start digging a new one. The shovels cut into dense snow, each movement draining what strength remains. After an hour and a half, the shelter is ready, cramped, rough, but safe from the wind. The night is uneasy. The wind howls outside. The temperature falls below 30 below zero. Inside, they lie close together, sharing body heat. The younger Kergiani complains of a headache and nausea, classic signs of altitude sickness. His body is struggling to keep up. August 25th. In the morning, they try to move higher, but the weather refuses to cooperate. Visibility barely reaches 20 meters. Attempting the final stretch in that kind of whiteout would be suicide. You could lose the route, or never find your way back. After 2 hours, they turn around and retreat to the bivouac. Now come the doubts. Time is running out. Supplies of food and fuel were planned for a specific window. The weather is unpredictable. And most importantly, the younger Kergiani is clearly unwell. Can they continue with the team as it is? Or should they change the rope order, leave someone at the intermediate camp? Mikhail looks at his brother. His brother looks away. Silence says more than words ever could. Sometimes the hardest step is the one you decide not to take. The team chooses to change their strategy. August 26th. Morning meeting inside the snow cave. Everyone understands the situation. Pushing forward with the full team now would put the entire expedition at risk. The younger Kergiani is barely holding on. The pace is slowing, and the hardest section still lies ahead. A new plan is needed, and fast. The proposal sounds reasonable: split the group. The 4 strongest climbers will make a summit push, traveling light, carrying only essentials. The remaining 2 will stay where they are, or begin a slow descent. It's standard practice. Not everyone has to reach the top. The real goal is for everyone to come back alive. But Mikhail Kergiani insists on a different plan. He says 4 go for the summit, and he'll descend with his brother. He won't leave him behind, won't hand the responsibility to anyone else. The brothers stay together. That decision sparks debate. On one hand, Mikhail is one of the most skilled climbers on the team. His strength and technique are crucial for the final section. Losing him in the summit group means lowering their chances of success. On the other hand, leaving his younger brother with someone else would shift the risk. If anything went wrong on the way down, it would be on another man's conscience. Mikhail stands firm. He says, "I brought my brother here. I'll take him back myself." The others can manage without him. They have the experience, they know the route, and the weather seems to be stabilizing. That's his final word. The team agrees, a compromise, at least on paper. The 4 prepare for their summit bid, checking ropes, redistributing gear, packing only what's absolutely necessary. Every extra kilogram at 7,000 meters means more strain on the heart, more burning in the lungs. Mikhail and his brother pack up their own equipment and plan their descent route. But there's an unspoken truth hanging in the air. Splitting a team is always a gamble. A rope team is a shared safety system. When one slips, the other holds. When one loses direction, the other guides. Now, instead of 1 unit of 6, there will be 2, 4, and 2. If something happens, help will be far away. The decision saves time, but divides the team. Up on the ridge, the search for old cairns begins, and so does the strike of the weather. The 4 climbers set out along the final ridge. The route leads east, crossing a series of rocky traverses. Here, endurance alone isn't enough. Every detail matters. The rocks are coated with a thin film of ice. Each foothold, each handhold has to be tested twice. One mistake, and a fall would drag the entire rope team down with it. Their goal isn't just to reach the summit, but to find the markers, small stone pyramids left by earlier expeditions. Cairns, like beacons in an ocean of snow and rock. If they find one, the route is right. If not, they might already be off course. After 2 hours of climbing, one of them spots something on a rocky ledge, a cairn. The stones are neatly stacked, topped with a flat slab. It's the work of Vitaly Abalakov, the expedition of 1956. Beneath the stones, they find a metal capsule with a note inside. The message is brief: the date of ascent, the names, the weather conditions. Reading it at 7,400 meters feels like receiving a letter from the past. The team adds their own message: date, names, objective. They place it back, rebuild the cairn. It's more than tradition, it's a record, a trace for those who might come after. If something goes wrong, this note will help piece together what happened. And then the weather breaks, not gradually, but instantly, as if someone flipped a switch. Clouds roll in like a solid wall, the wind rises to a roar. Visibility drops to 5 meters. The climber just ahead turns into a blurred silhouette. Take one more step, and he disappears completely. The temperature plummets. The wind cuts through every layer of clothing, stripping warmth from their bodies. Exposed skin goes numb within minutes. This isn't just bad weather, it's a whiteout. The world dissolves into a single, blinding blur of snow and sky. Losing direction now is easier than keeping it. The team stops. Moving forward in this chaos is impossible. One wrong step could mean stepping off the ridge, onto a cornice, into the void. There's only one decision that makes sense: descend. Not retreat, not surrender. Descend because life matters more than ambition. The ropes become their final lifeline. The team moves slowly, each step measured by the pull of the line. 1 leads, 3 belay. If the first slips, the others will hold. It's the mathematics of survival. When the horizon shrinks to the size of a hand, the rope decides the route. And that rope, by pure chance, will end up saving their lives. Descent in a whiteout is movement by instinct alone. The four climbers inch their way down the ridge, every step calculated, every shift of weight checked through the tension in the rope. The wind roars so loudly that even at 2 meters, voices vanish. Commands travel through the rope instead. 1 tug, stop, 2, move. Then, a break in the slope. A steep section, covered in fresh snow, resting on a hard, icy crust, like flour spread across glass. The danger isn't obvious. It looks solid enough. But the first man to step on it feels the snow start to slide beneath his boots. The fall happens in an instant. One climber loses footing, pulling the next off balance. The rope snaps tight. The third tries to arrest, but the snow won't hold. The fourth slams his ice axe into the hilt, braces with all his strength, but the pull is too strong. The entire team begins to slide. It lasts only seconds, but feels like forever. Snow whips their faces. There's no sense of direction, no up, no down. Bodies tumble, hands grab at nothing. The ice axe scrapes uselessly against the surface. Speed builds. Ahead, the slope breaks off into nothingness, and then the rope catches. It bites deep into the ridge, carving a groove in the packed snow. The rope loops around a small rise, and that loop holds. Physics takes over. The weight of 4 bodies presses the line into the slope. The snow compacts, friction builds, and the fall stops. Just 1 meter from the edge. Silence. Only the wind and their own ragged breathing, fast, uneven, like after a sprint. The first thought is the same for everyone. We're alive. The second, how alive? They check themselves, then each other. Bruises, scrapes, but nothing serious. Ice axes still in place, the rope intact, only slightly frayed where it cut into the ridge. No gear lost. That alone feels like a miracle. But they're spent. The adrenaline fades, leaving only exhaustion. To keep descending now, in this state and this weather, would be asking for another fall. The decision comes quickly. They'll bivouac here. They start digging a snow cave right into the slope. It's not comfort. It's survival. The walls are made of the same snow that almost buried them. Inside, they seal the entrance with their packs and light the stove. There's barely any warmth, but at least the wind can't reach them. Sometimes, between life and the void, there's only a thin rope. Morning will bring visibility and new decisions. The morning of August 27th brings silence. The wind dies down, the clouds break apart, and visibility returns. The 4 climbers crawl out of their snow cave and see them. Not far away near the old bivouac stand 2 figures, Mikhail Kergiani and his younger brother, alive, waiting. The groups reunite, quick embraces, short questions. You okay? All good? It turns out their descent wasn't smooth either. The Kergiani brothers had stopped at an intermediate point, planning to spend the night at their old bivouac, where they'd left packs with spare food and fuel. But the packs are gone. Maybe they were buried under snow. Maybe the wind swept them away. Maybe the coordinates were slightly off, and they're just looking in the wrong spot. Either way, the packs are missing, which means no stove, no food reserves. Mikhail decides fast. They'll dig in for the night. They carve out a small niche in the slope and spend the night there. No hot food, no way to melt snow for water. At 7,000 meters, dehydration comes fast. Every breath drains moisture from the body, and there's nothing to replace it. By the time morning comes, 2 more climbers join them, Kukianidze and Gabriani from the summit team. They too lost their packs, spent the night without a proper bivouac. Out of 6 men, 4 have now spent the night in emergency conditions. Now they're all together again, and the plan is clear. Down. The faster, the better. Every extra hour at altitude eats away at strength already running low. Food supplies are minimal, fuel nearly gone. They have to descend while their bodies still respond. But then, a new problem. Iliko, one of the team, starts complaining of sharp pain near his liver. It's not just discomfort, it's stabbing, worsening with every movement. At altitude, any chronic issue can flare up fast. Oxygen deprivation, dehydration, sheer physical strain, it all punishes the organs. Iliko tries to hide it, but in the mountains, hiding things is dangerous. The others notice, his pace slows, pauses grow longer, his face tightens with pain. It's one more risk to factor into the descent. The descent isn't an afterword, it's the second half of the climb. From here on, it's all about technique and cold. Mistakes won't forgive. The day is clear, but the cold cuts like a blade. The air hangs around 35 below, and that's before you even count the wind. The team begins their technical descent. The Hergiani brothers lead the way, the rest follow close behind. Mikhail's younger brother is doing surprisingly well. Yesterday's weakness seems to have vanished. Maybe the altitude finally eased up. Maybe his body found a second wind. But not everyone's so lucky. Kahianidze stops, trying to strap on his crampons, and can't. His toes are half frozen, swollen, his boots tight. The metal teeth just won't lock in place. He tries again and again, wincing with pain, but it's no use. Without crampons on ice, it's like walking on glass in socks. Jumber Kahianidze makes a call. He'll go down using Shackleton spikes. They're no real substitute. Shorter, weaker, meant for packed snow, not bare ice. But there's no choice. Stop for too long and you freeze. Move without traction, and it's Russian roulette on a mountainside. The group pushes toward the steep upper cliffs. Here the slope turns nearly vertical. You can't just walk anymore. It takes skill and precision. Snow gives way to rock glazed with a thin layer of ice. Every hold is tested, every step calculated. One slip, and the whole rope team could fall. They reach the hardest section. Time for a rappel, feeding the rope through carabiners, sliding down while controlling the tension. It's a basic technique, but at 7,000 meters, nothing feels basic. Hands are numb, fingers barely respond, the rope is stiff with frost. Mikhail sets the anchor, drives in an ice screw, threads the rope, checks the knot. He goes first, showing the line, then his brother, then the rest, one by one. Fatigue builds with every meter. Reactions slow, focus fades. That's the danger zone, when the body runs on autopilot and the mind starts to drift. Jumber waits for his turn. The Shackleton spikes scrape against the ice but don't bite deep enough. He watches the others disappearing below. Soon, it'll be his move. When the metal's not on your boots, the ice decides for you. The next knot will be his last. The rappel starts like any other. The rope's secured, the knot checked, the first climbers disappear below. Teimuraz gets ready for his descent. He feeds the line through the carabiner, checks his harness, gives a sharp test pull. Everything's solid. He pushes off the wall, easing himself down, controlling the speed with a steady hand on the rope. Then, something shifts. The rope feels different, softer. It's subtle, but Teimuraz senses it. The tension isn't right. Maybe the rope's rubbing against a sharp edge of rock. Maybe the knot's loosening under the constant strain. Maybe the cold has made the fibers brittle. He tries to stop, presses the rope harder against his glove, and in that instant, it happens. The line gives way. His body drops. His feet lose contact with the rock. As he falls, Teimuraz clips Jumber, who's standing just below, ready for his own descent. The impact knocks Jumber off balance. He tries to hold on, but the pull is too strong. And then, from above, something falls. A rock. Small, fist-sized. But at that speed, it's a bullet. It slams into the rope stretched tight between anchors. The line snaps. Not slowly, not with warning, instantly. One moment it's there, the next it's gone. Teimuraz vanishes beyond the edge. No scream, no crash, just silence. The snow swallows everything. The group freezes. For a few seconds, no one moves, no one speaks. The mind refuses to believe what the eyes just saw. Then someone calls his name. Then again, no answer. They peer over the edge, but the slope drops out of sight. No sign of him, no trace of the fall, only snow and rock. Jumber's in shock. He was right there. The blow almost took him too. Another second, and he would have gone with him. His hands tremble, his breath comes in bursts. The others scramble to think, what now? Search for him? But how with the rope gone and no spare long enough to reach? Mikhail Hergiani makes the call. They keep descending. It sounds cold, but it's the only choice. At this altitude, in these conditions, a rescue is impossible. They need to get lower, reach a safer zone, and then decide what to do. A falling stone, pure chance. The consequences, forever. And below, the descent continues, unroped, and another fall waits in silence. The team keeps descending along the same route they climbed. The path is familiar, but every step feels heavier than the last. Days at high altitude have drained their strength, and the shock of Teimuraz's death still hangs over them like a shadow. Ahead lies an ice traverse, a section that demands absolute precision. Ilyin offers to take the lead. He's got crampons. He can move faster, cut a trail, make it safer for the others. It makes sense. It's the right call. But Jumber refuses. He insists on going first, even though he's still wearing only Shackleton spikes. Maybe it's pride. Maybe it's the shock. Maybe he just can't bring himself to show weakness. Jumber steps onto the ice slope. The spikes scrape against the surface but don't bite deep enough. He takes a few careful steps and slips. The fall happens instantly. His body slides down the slope, gaining speed. Jumber swings his ice axe, trying to dig it in, stop the slide, but the pick won't hold. It rips free, spinning out of his hand. Ilyin, standing higher up, sees everything. He watches Jumber struggle, sees his body tumbling, the distance between them widening in seconds. There's no time to shout, no chance to throw a rope. He can only watch as his teammate disappears beyond the ridge. Silence. Again, the same hollow silence. The remaining climbers keep moving down. Slowly. Wordlessly. They have no strength left for anything else. Around 5,000 meters, they meet a rescue team. At the front is Avtandil Akavlediani, a legendary Georgian mountaineer, a man built like a rock, known to everyone simply as Avtandil. He's come up with a small team to help with the evacuation. But one look at their faces, and he knows the help they need isn't just physical. The rescuers already know something's wrong. Down at base camp, there's been no contact with the summit group for days. The delay raised the alarm, and the team started climbing up to find them. Mikhail Hergiani and the survivors join the search for the bodies. It takes days, retracing the route, checking every possible fall zone, locating, securing, and carrying them down. Teimuraz and Jumber are found on different parts of the slope. From there, it's a long, solemn journey back to base camp, and eventually to Tbilisi. Later, an investigation lists the causes of the tragedy: the weather, a sudden collapse of conditions on the final stretch, the missing gear, lost packs with spare crampons and ropes, the human factor, emotional decisions, the group splitting, the refusal to turn back when it still could have mattered. But there are personal elements too. Mikhail's younger brother wasn't fully prepared for a climb of this difficulty. His inclusion was more a family choice than a professional one. Iliko had hidden liver problems that worsened at altitude. And Jumber, shaken by Teimuraz's fall, consumed by guilt, couldn't accept help when he needed it most. Mountains demand more than strength. They demand restraint, not just courage, but the wisdom to stop before it's too late. In 1961, Pik Pobedi took 2 lives. Their names remain in the history of mountaineering, not as heroes of triumph, but as a reminder of the price that comes with every mistake up high. Their pride became memory, their despair, a warning. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.